Columbine High School, Las Vegas Concert Hall, Sandy Hook Elementary, Borderline Bar and Grill, Saugus High School. These are only a fraction of the mass shootings that have taken place over the past 20 years. This year alone, the Gun Violence Archive reports 389 mass shootings. These shootings have taken 128 lives and injured another 1,575 people.
There's no comparison. The United States has the worst gun violence problem in the world.
And when these events happen, the news media provides continuous coverage for viewers.
In an attempt to decrease mass shootings, many people have focused on the issue of gun control. However, some people have begun to question whether the media's extensive coverage of the shooter is actually causing more harm than good.
The way the media covers mass shootings is particularly concerning because there is an overemphasis on the perpetrators.
Academics like Dr. Schildkraut are researching responses to the media's focus on mass shooters.
Within the first, 12 to 14 days after a high-profile attack, you're seeing other replications of that event.
And have found that over-coverage may produce a contagion effect. In his research, Professor of Criminal Justice Adam Lankford found 24 examples of shooters who claimed they were seeking fame. With this evidence, academics and activists like these ones say one response to decreasing the number of mass shootings is leaving the name and face of the shooter out of news coverage.
The goal is simply to get news organizations to pause and consider whether or not it is important enough to include the name of the killer in the story.
And going one step further, Professor Reed is urging newsrooms to adopt guidelines for covering mass shootings. Schildkraut says limiting the amount of attention given to shooters might take away something they most desire.
Number one, we're removing the reward that they're all telling us they want, which is notoriety and fame.
In response to a similar problem, in 2001, the government issued guidelines for how news outlets should cover suicides. This came after studies showed how extensive news coverage of suicide can create a copycat effect. The Associated Press, the leading rules and guidance book written by journalists, called for no coverage of suicides unless the circumstances or the person involved warrant it. Now, journalists are calling for the same response to be applied to coverage of mass shootings.
I've covered those stories. I didn't use a name or face. I never had a viewer complain.
Adam Housley, a former Fox News correspondent, lost his niece Elena in the Borderline shooting.
I've lived this now on both sides. I've covered 6 mass shootings on the national level, not counting what I covered local level, and I've lived one on the national level with my niece, who was my goddaughter and one of my closest friends.
Housley believes how news covers these shootings is easy to change.
Journalists that think that people's names have to be in there are honestly full of crap.
But there are journalists who say news shouldn't be censored.
If people are glorifying them, that's not a problem of journalism, that's a problem of society.
Bob Tarlow worked as a news producer for over 45 years and believes it is the job of a journalist to present all the facts so the public can draw their own conclusions. Competition plays a part too.
And if you want to hold off on that on Channel 7, then people are going to say, what the hell? They're not telling us who this guy is. We got to find out something about him. Let's go to Channel 9 instead.
Fox LA producer Carol Fracassa agrees that including the identity of the gunman is a fundamental part of journalism.
Our job immediately is who, what, when, where, why, how.
After initial breaking news coverage of mass shootings, Fracassa also ensures that the name and picture of the shooter begin to fade and the victims take center stage.
People want you to know about the loved ones that they lost.
So while campaigns are focusing on the news media's response to mass shootings as a solution to end the violence, news professionals say there is no easy target.
And I don't think it's going to be reversed with a simple solution.
I'm Jenna Gartner, Newswaves 32.